Hi everyone, Arry, Chair of the Cascadia Blockchain Council and your host for Windshield Time, the podcast, and also the Blockchain Underground here. I usually co-host with my husband, Yu, and so you'll actually see him in this show. Before we start, make sure you call your senator. Call your state senator today. There's an infrastructure bill going on. There's a lot of drama and politics going on, but what we do want is for them to support the amendment by Wyden, Loomis, and Toomey. Very, very important. So there's a script that's going around. You can check out my Twitter or check out the Slack channel for the script. It takes 5 minutes. You leave a voicemail. You don't have to talk to anybody, but very, very, very important for you to do. This particular AMA is with Alex Christian. He's the CEO and founder of Datamynt, Datamynt.com. Check out his website. He's got a great DeFi aggregator platform where you can sign up. He's launching a token called BYOB, BYOB meaning be your own bank. He answers all sorts of questions and gives a lot of background. You know, he's had a very, very long career in payments. He worked at MetalPay, he's worked at exchanges. He talks about what it's like to be a startup founder and CEO, building a distributed team. Talks about how to scale a token. He talks about DAOs, DAOs. And lots of regulatory questions. So this particular AMA is a lot more technical than our typical AMAs. If you're new to the space, it may seem a little bit overwhelming, but I actually suggest you listen to it because it'll give you a little bit of exposure to a lot more of the technical topics that are typically discussed. Remember, I do have a course that I've launched on maven.com, maven.com. It's a blockchain and crypto fundamentals course, 3 weeks, a couple hours a day. It'll give you the full end-to-end picture of what you need to really be able to mentally navigate this space, which is moving extremely quickly. Anyway, every Friday, 12 to 1 p.m. PST, we do have this AMA on Fridays. So feel free to join us anytime, every week. We're here, rain or shine. All right, have a great day, everyone. All right. Well, see, I'm sure a few more people will be joining because everyone was really excited about Alex Christian being able to join us for an AMA this week. This will be recorded, so we'll be able to share it along with the podcast and the YouTube channel, so you can always return to it afterwards. I know over the past several weeks, a lot of people have been asking about, like, if I want to mint my own token, how do I go about doing it? Like, what are the first steps? We have a lot of interest in the community about what that even looks like and how you go about doing it. And then, a lot of folks are always interested in DeFi because DeFi is super hot, of course. So, how about we kick off with Alex? Can you give an intro of yourself? How did you get into this space? How long have you been in it? Why did you start Datamynt? What is Datamynt? And what kind of token are you working on? Like the whole spiel. So the stage is yours, please.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, it's good to meet with you guys. Always love to meet kind of like-minded and interesting folks working on cool projects. That seems to be like the theme of, I guess, post, 2018. A lot of entrepreneur boom. So that's just amazing. So I'm from kind of Oakland, California. And my background is traditional finance. So banking and payments, fintech. In the last few years have been crypto, and now kind of like DeFi fintech, I guess I might say, if you will. So that started in like large public corporation like Western Union launching their first digital products across like 80 different countries, ushering in some of their first crypto partnerships and building some of those. Like we built a Coinbase widget, which never actually went public, did some testing with Ripple. And that's kind of how I first started getting kind of interest on the crypto side, understanding the real pain points of a huge financial service company and the legacy systems that are just kind of like painstaking and and what centralized kind of cross-border, I guess, looks like and feels like. And it's I always call that company kind of like a Frankenstein, because it's just a ton of different companies and regions and countries, almost like a bunch of feudal areas, like brick coming together under one roof. So, learned a lot, which is great. And then moved on and, built out, not built, I'm a non-technical founder. I guess went to market with a number of like payments and fintech companies like Airwallex, built out the eBays, managed payments, post kind of PayPal divorce, if you will. And during that time, started like buying Bitcoin, playing around with different ETH addresses, and always kind of in the back of my head was like, not necessarily, I never really was into trading, like high frequency trading or anything, but it was always like, how do we get to a place where there's application for like helpful application in terms of financial services for a lot of people. So whether it's unbanked or lowering the cost or gaining efficiency, which like fintech has been saying for maybe like a decade now. And I think there's it's arguable whether or not that's actually gained in a lot of ways. Certainly efficiency, like Robinhood is a good example of that. So yeah, I started to advise a company called Yellow Card back in 2016 or 17, before they were launched. And they are based in the US, but they're a Bitcoin and Ethereum purchase, like point of sale, essentially. They're in 10 African countries, growing like mad right now. I think they're about to raise their Series A. So kind of helped them when they were at, I think it was Auburn University, ran into those guys. And that's when I really started getting the bug. Every company I was at, I was like pushing for crypto partnerships. And I was like the buggy rando that would come up to any person that would listen and say, hey, like, what about this partnership? Like, what about how about the application here and there? And, it's met with kind of like an eye roll, and like sometimes people would be interested. A lot of times it would just be like, get out of here, go do your job. Like, what's your job around here? So yeah, fast forward to a couple of years ago, and I started full time for my first kind of real getting paid to do crypto at a small startup called MetalPay in the Bay Area. And they have two ERC20s. One is Metal MTL, which has like a utility of proof of payment processed, which means like it's kind of like a PayPal essentially, for crypto and fiat. So you get like rewards in metal, and it's listed on a few exchanges. And then it's like an exchange as well, so you can buy and sell. So that time was really cool. Really got to learn the ins and outs of, I think, a pretty, what I would consider a traditional crypto business at this point. Launched that, plus an exchange that's, I don't think, any longer with us, across Europe as well, and Turkey. So like 27 countries, got licensed, all that good stuff. And kind of looked pretty hard at what my next step was going to be after kind of a couple years ago, or a couple years in, realizing that we're doing like very similar things to what like 2,000 other companies do in the crypto space. And there's a lot of just innovation. Like this is the craziest space that, I mean, maybe we'll ever live through in terms of just like advancement and innovation. And so decentralized finance and what is happening over there really got my attention. So I left and started what has become now Datamynt. And so Datamynt is, in I guess we're still in the early days of DeFi, but in the earlier days, like a year or two ago, I guess, and it's still kind of like that, decentralized services on the consumer, I guess, finance side, super difficult to use, costly. You guys know the scene. There's like, could be like rug pulls, could be hacks, could be like, it's just pretty, I guess, buggy for lack of a better word. But at the same time, like extremely valuable services, like underlying, I think is what's extremely critical.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been trying to figure out how to kind of bring those to the fore and really be the bridge between traditional finance, e.g. like online banking and DeFi. And so what we've come up with right now to date is that's our backend. So we're kind of like a DeFi aggregator, if you will. And we only utilize stable coins. So no like price risk or volatility. And on the front end, it looks and feels a lot like an online bank. So we abstract, what I say is like, we don't require people to go through like a financial engineering course, which a lot of times it can feel that way when you go on to a DeFi protocol. And like 60% of the people out there are like financial introverts. So there's no way they're going to ever like embark on any of that. So we abstract, and we have a fiat on and off ramp, a couple of partners there. So the customer will go through like KYC, essentially purchase stablecoin. And for our first product is a 5% APY savings wallet, pretty standard, probably pretty low for everybody on this call. We take a spread, but like most importantly, we abstract all the gas, all the fees with any of the, everybody in this value chain, just like fintech or banking, like they all have their hands out, right? They're all toll takers, including the protocols. So we abstract that and pay that ourselves, hoping to flip margin, which is really tight right now. But it's kind of what we're up to. So yeah, targeting what we call the 99%, or I guess it's probably low. Hopefully it's like 90% now of people that are into, buying, what is now, I guess, institutional grade asset, like Bitcoin, and hopefully Ethereum's maybe right behind that. So yeah, so that's kind of what Datamynt is about. We have 12 people right now. Probably the most like diverse early team you can imagine. We're on every continent, with a great, just a great background. We just hired somebody who led marketing at Algorand on the Asia side of things, to lead our BYOB DAO, which I'll get into in a second. And so yeah, I have a great, really, really excited and proud of the team. Met Arry when through Startup Haven, actually. She was like, I think one of the first people I talked to, definitely one of the first or second people, which really, I don't know how this is going to sound, but it really lended legitimacy, honestly, I think, because this is a really niche space. I think that, DeFi Alliance and a lot of like organizations are coming about, and there's obviously startups coming up everywhere. But from an investor mentor standpoint, I think to add value, it's still relatively niche.
Yeah, it's very niche. We're very excited to see you and be a part of your journey for sure. And they were all looking at me like, Arry, is it a go or no go? And I was like, I like the package, Alex. Yes, of course. Yeah.
So yeah. So that was that. I guess on the BYOB side, so we do have in the effort to bridge the two sides, we have I don't know if you call it Jekyll and Hyde's probably not the right metaphor, but like we do have a BYOB token, Be Your Own Bank. It's an ERC20 at this point. And it's on mainnet. It's obviously for DeFi natives. Wouldn't even say like crypto natives. With that, right now it's still on our website. We're going to definitely split it out into its own like URL. We've built a staking vault as well, and we have this whole like kind of from an organizational standpoint, this kind of like hopefully it's sustainable flywheel where we're going to buy back. We're going to list BYOB. We're going to buy back some of that. We're going to add it to the staking pool and generate yield, and then drive like incentive to stake basically on through the platform. And what else? Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of what we're up to, and we call it right now. We need to change it because it's like 2021. The 1% knights that are fighting for independence for the 99% from the banks, so something like that. So the DeFi knights of the world, but we need to be a little, I think, more probably gender neutral, I would say, at least from the Bay Area point of view. So. So yeah, that's kind of what we're up to. ERC20, like I mentioned, audited, which is helpful. So yeah.
So I guess, folks, if you want to ask questions, just use the hand raise function in Zoom, and I'll queue you up. So feel free to jump in, or also watch the chat and call out any questions that come out up there. Otherwise, for me, it's because as an entrepreneur in this very fast-moving DeFi space and launching a token, and I mean, from my previous experience, I always feel like it's like running two companies in one because you're running like the platform Datamynt and you're also running BYOB. How would you describe it?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. So we've actually internally had difficulty because we have folks who don't come from DeFi or fintech. Imagine that. I think it's difficult on day to day to separate those out. It's two completely different audiences, different platforms or products, like you mentioned. And so we've kind of started to split the team just to maintain some semblance of like messaging, discipline, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's incredibly. That's definitely one of the like craziest tasks, I would say, or craziest like orders of things. But you know, it's kind of like I would say it's definitely interesting, exciting. It's not something I've necessarily been a part of before, so it's either been like totally traditional finance or fintech or like crypto. So yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, like the speed and velocity at which you're moving, because you know we have a lot of other startups that we work with, and you know I think startups move at like 80 or 90 miles an hour, and I think those in the crypto space, especially if you're doing a token, you have to move at like 150 miles an hour, and we're just like, whoa, where's Alex today? It's pretty crazy. I'll take a question. So Brian had his question first, and then we'll take a question from Adam, or maybe that's not Adam. Well, at least from Brian first. Hey, Brian.
Hey, all right. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I had just a question about BYOB tokens. So I'm looking at the token on Ethereum right now, and it looks like there's a supply or max total supply of 8 billion tokens, and there are currently 3 holders and 5 transfers. So I'm just curious about how you're going to go from like the current metrics to making this token more like metal, which you mentioned before. So like how do you get like an actual value or price initially ascribed to BYOB on ERC20?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is definitely where the like sausage is made, for sure. So so a couple different pieces. So we've been engaged in kind of like some what I would call pre-sales, and we have like vesting contracts. So 12 to 15 months right now. But that doesn't, like, as you're kind of pointing out, that does not ascribe a market price in essence. And so after we've completed some pretty successful kind of pre-sales, we are deciding we started an initial community build. I think the engagement's been like moderate in my moderately successful in what I would say. So we hired Sophie, who comes, like I mentioned, from Algorand, to build out a DAO to raise awareness. And then in terms of the how we've structured kind of to get toward a market prices, pre-sales plus essentially auction with a vest or a lock period, and then going toward public auction plus a centralized exchange listing. So we're talking to a few centralized exchanges right now on timing of that. I would guess at this point like Q4, and that would really that's when like the market dynamics would set in essentially. So that's yeah. In the past, in the 2 tokens I've been a part of, it was centralized exchange. We're kind of toying with the IDO, or and just like liquidity pools and that, or sorry, and DEXs, and layering that over with the centralized exchange. We'll see. So we're kind of like testing, I would say, also, but in the end, it's got to be public, no best contract. Yeah.
Yeah, IEOs to IDOs, I think, is the thing this year, which is kind of crazy. Adam Gehring has a question. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Alex. Great to meet you. We should definitely sideline a conversation with regards to partnership opportunities and industry discussion and whatnot. And the question I'm going to ask you, most people don't like to talk about on forums, so I'm going to ask it anyways. Alex wouldn't answer it a couple of weeks ago. What's your thesis on regulatory coverage for offering like your interest-bearing account?
Yeah, great question. Glad you asked, actually. So regulatory coverage, what do I say? I would say that right now, that right now, I've been working in highly regulated space for nearly a decade, and I understand pretty clearly, as clear as you can, at least, where the major red lines are, where the gray areas are, and where kind of like, I think you need to make what I would call smart bets. And how regulators, frankly, at least in the US and lots of other countries, see financial services. So if I were going to, hypothetically, go through the cease and desist order from New Jersey, and go through the BlockFi like interest-bearing account, you get into pretty highly like levered and questionably, it could be seen as high risk product, basically, given all of the mechanisms that are going into that interest-bearing account. Ours is simply staking. It's like one of 4 things that I think that are going on into the BlockFi account. So as a regulator, like, ruled on staking, no, I'd be surprised when that's going to happen, to be honest with you. They're still trying to figure out like deep, crypto, let alone like, decentralized financial services. So our partners on the fiat on and off ramp side, regulated, licensed, customers go through KYC. But we're constantly kind of looking at, for example, this like bill that's going to pass, infrastructure bill, like what happens, what does it mean for us? Do we need to reassess? Like, it's at the end of the day, we're going for borderless and permissionless. Hard stop. We have a long way to go, and it's going to be a fight. I'm not going to, it just is going to be. I worked in DC for 10 years before I got into fintech, right? So like, it's going to be a country by country, like fight. El Salvador is going to look different than the U.S., going to look different than China. Like, so, we try to make smart bets and try not to get too far out of line, I would say. But, regulators are not like, they built their regulation around institutions that we're removing. So we'll see what happens.
Cool. Great answer.
Thanks.
Great question, Adam. Looks like Brian has another question. So hand raise if you'd like to ask questions, but otherwise I'll put up Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Arry. Yeah, I was just wondering if you could talk more about the process by which you are applying to or working with centralized exchanges.
We're not right now. So we are working with stablecoin operators to facilitate, like, I don't know if you'd call it like OTC, but like best rates on those kind of purchases. But right now we don't have any plugins into centralized exchanges, with the exception of talking to some about listing the BYOB token. So, but after that, we're like a hands-off approach is what I would say. It's like market mechanism, and we certainly don't want to be involved in any of price-related stuff, any of that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
So when you say you're talking about listing the BYOB token, can you just tell me more about that?
Yeah. So, and this is like an evolution, I think, in terms of like how centralized exchanges have operated. But traditionally, and this is like still pretty much happening. Exchanges like take listing fees. They take, they try to like de-risk in the event that like something's found of security, which is kind of like at this point kind of BS, honestly. But yeah, it's like listing fee. They're basically you are not borrowing, you're like plugging into their liquidity that they worked hard for. So along with like joint marketing and stuff like that. So you have to be valid in their eyes, somewhat of a decent bet. And it goes kind of both ways though. You have to, there's 4,000 exchanges out there right now. So, I mean, you don't want to be in bed, so to speak, or listed or have a contract with somebody who's maybe rug pull or somebody who's not on the up and up. So, the line to get into those exchanges that are highly liquid, that do over X amount of volume a day, those lines are pretty long and have been for some time. So yeah, that's kind of it. It's a commercial arrangement at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's really competitive. And then having done this in the olden days being 2017 and 18, one of the best ways is to like get your community members, so people that support your project, to reach out to those exchanges and say like, hey, we really want this listed, and kind of increase your visibility to these very popular exchanges. And sometimes these exchanges will also like host competitions and have community votes. And so they'll say like, hey, we have these 5 tokens that we're looking at. Which ones do you want to see? Stuff like that. So just getting more visible and showing that, you have a really strong community behind you in terms of your project and what you're doing with your token also increases the likelihood that you're less risky to these, platinum level exchanges.
Yeah.
Thanks, Arry.
Other questions, anybody? So I guess I have a question. Like working in DeFi, typically users in DeFi don't want to go through the KYC and are very KYC AML shy, but you're going through a much more compliant, regulatory friendly partnered approach. So how do you kind of like reconcile the two worlds there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, I mean, say the platform, the Datamynt platform is probably going to be on that for a while until we get, I would say like total value locked into like the trillions, to be frank with you, way into the trillions. And we're a ways away from that. But on the staking and on the BYOB kind of, I don't call it platform, but like token side, that will be, that will be permissionless. So that's kind of why we're going to set up a different channels, different URL for that, and that will not be, we're set up a DAO around that with like clear charter, governing principles, etc. And that there won't be like KYC there. So yeah, it's a bit strange. I don't know that anyone's necessarily like attempted this. It might be insane, but yeah.
Someone's gonna try it and pave the way and be the pioneer. Like setting up a DAO, I think that has been a hot topic for quite some time. Like, what does that mean? Like, do you just like put out a bid out there and say, here's an RFDA out, like who wants to join in and apply? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, we're going through like the formation charter stuff actually right now. Our kind of like DAO, almost like our DAO GM just joined us like this week. So we're going through that. I don't think it's like, to be honest with you, it's like that formalized. I'd say initially we're looking at, community membership through channels, through holdings, to verify it that way. And then through the voting mechanism, which I forget the name of it. I can send it afterwards, but there is a great tool out there there's a few that are being developed that are even better from like a gasless standpoint to participate in kind of voting. But I don't think it's like that, that formal necessarily. But I do think that participation in like the governance of voting is critical, and really activating the community is something that, I see a lot of newer DAOs or communities struggle with, regardless of how much they may have raised. It's still like extremely top heavy. So that's like a huge challenge, I think.
So then like with your startup CEO hat on, you got the Datamynt platform, you got the BYOB token, and now you also have the DAO. So is your day like flipping through these 3+ the operation stuff of running a startup, or do you have like certain days of the week that you are like, today's DAO day and today's token day, and what's
so we're trying to couple like the BYOB and DAO together, but yeah, we're like, so Sophie's based in Shanghai actually, so we've separated out the meetings and trying to just we don't have separate Slack channels, thank God, or Slack groups. But yeah, I mean, this is the definitely the challenge. I mean, we kind of see the DAO and the BYOB as strangely kind of the slower burn, whereas the Datamynt, without users on Datamynt, that's really the engine for the DAO and being able to increase the stake rewards basically through that, like essentially the margin part of the margin that we're getting. So yeah, we're iterating and quickly going on the Datamynt side, and the DAO side's a bit of a, I'd say, kind of slower burn. Yeah. Thankfully.
So then like maybe to like take a few steps back and like look at the ecosystem overall, like DeFi became really hot, I think like the middle of last year, 2020, and then it's just been going since. So we're like, say, a year-ish into this DeFi world, and maybe 6 months into this crazy NFT world, round 3. Where do you think next, say, like 12 months are going to be? Because it's hard to even go out 5 or 10 years. Where's this all going, do you think, from where you sit?
I don't know. I think one of the most interesting parts about DeFi is where like Compound and Aave have gone, which is like regulate some pretty major central decisions and like and going toward compliance. That's pretty wild to me.
Why?
Not wild, but because that's not where their bread was buttered. They didn't that's what we say in the Midwest, sorry. So like that's not how they got their users. That's not where they sold their user base. That's just not where their core competency and service was. And I think it's, I'm not going to say retreating, but it's around that, right? It's kind of, yeah. I find that those moves to be like the most like, I don't blame anybody for anything, but those are interesting moves, I would say. There's a fundamental, some could be seen as some fundamental changes.
So is that your way of saying, if I'm reading between the lines and extrapolating, that maybe the DeFi world is going to be leaning more towards, I don't know, right or left, regulatory compliance and figuring out how to partner with regulators? Or, I mean, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're big enough, coming from like the DC world, like if you're big enough and just paying attention to what happens on the Hill and whatnot, and law enforcement, like you have more like at stake, you have more at risk, so you can more easily be like pressured, I guess. So I definitely don't see like the DeFi community like. No, I don't see partnerships with like. I just don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't think regulators are still in like the search and educate and what is this? What's going on? I mean, we're trying to keep up with like what happens. I think in the DeFi world, like things change, innovations happen all the time on most of the use cases. So, yeah, I don't know that regulators are ready for a part. Like, what are they gonna?
Yeah.
What are they gonna say? Like,
there's been a lot of resistance, and if you just look at the United States, which is where like I spend a lot of my time these days, like a lot of the regulatory clarity has been come from like enforcement and those like type of actions.
That's right.
Instead of like giving us clarity with definitions and a checklist. And it's actually, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of DC, like the infrastructure bill, like that's been like my existence for the last 10 days. And hopefully it ends today with them, signing in the Wyman-Loomis, I can't remember, bill. Like, what are your thoughts? Do you support one amendment over another, or how are you planning for this?
I think I take the stance, and the team, obviously, a lot of folks are things can change like at any 1 second. And so for me, it's like, we're going to react to what's passed. There have been innumerable bills that obviously this is going to pass in some form. We don't have any like, real equity, so to speak, to sway anything. So just kind of paying attention. Obviously, it could be monumental for innovation in the U.S. It's disheartening listening to a senator who I usually respect, like Senator Warren, speak about something that I believe she knows little about. And ascribing very serious words to. That's disappointing. And then this is like, there are downstream impacts that politicians who are just trying to get elected in will be talking the other side of in the next few months or years. So, but the markets are free, global markets are free, and people are just going to go somewhere else. So,
and we've seen that state by state, and also in the U.S. A lot of companies have chosen other jurisdictions just because there's more clarity or more willingness to partner with this new innovative technology.
Yeah, Wyoming, the Kraken Bank, right? Like,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, very true. I've been hugging the question mic. Anybody who have questions on DeFi, minting your own token, Datamynt, BYOB, ERC20s, stable coins? Or I can just keep on going. I don't want to hog the mic. I guess what's top of mind for you, Alex? So we're like, a little past the halfway point for 2021. It's been a little bit of a crazy year, pandemic, on, off. There's Delta coming in. You got all these crypto bills. Crypto is now like partisan or not partisan. Everyone should call their senators, by the way, today.
Yes.
Must call your senator, please. What's the top of your mind for the rest of this year? We're going to the end of December 2021.
Yeah. Get vaccinated and call your senator, please. We are we're trying to keep our heads down and building, honestly. So, that's really been the focus. We have like short, mid, and long term. Everything up to, at the end of the day, by like Q1, we'd love to be in a position where we're like one of the first stablecoin settled like cards, like debit cards. So we're talking with the card networks and all the players kind of there. So,
cool.
Yeah, we're paying attention to what's happening, partnering, leveraging innovation, and building, and that's kind of I'd say that's like been the biggest focus. We have a several fiat on off ramp and exchange stablecoin exchange partnerships that cover different regions of the world. So go to market is super critical. We're also looking at a rebrand for Datamynt. Honestly, something that might be like just more engaging. This was developed out of like outside of what we're doing right now. So, what I like to call like bringing in kind of like Steph Curry to shoot the 3-pointer for us, or Tiger Woods to hit the ball or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of keep building. I hope a lot of folks can do that. It's difficult in the when things are moving so fast to stay disciplined, but I think it's like extremely important. So yeah.
Another question that came up is I took the class. I've been teaching blockchain and crypto for some time now, launching a different course right now, and a lot of folks are looking to move into the crypto world, work at a crypto company. So as a person that's now hiring and going to be hiring more and more folks, like, what's the most important characteristic that you're looking for? Is it somebody that comes out of coding school and knows how to do a smart contract, or has crypto experience, or like what's key to you? And you might hire someone. In my experience, we've hired people, but they don't really stick around for 2-3 months. So how do you know you found someone that'll be there for the long run?
Yeah, this is a really great topic and question. It's important. So yeah, the same here. So we have folks that have come for not too long in the search of kind of this holy grail of amazing team, which is a few different things. I think one, and I tell everybody this that comes in or that wants to kind of come in, you have to be invested in. If you're not like in the space, great. Not everyone's in the space. Not many people are in the space. You have to be invested in like becoming knowledgeable and a thought leader, and so that you can then bring ideas to the table that are meaningfully considered, and maybe even like we go in that direction. that investment is like extremely critical, and it means you're going to trade off some things that you currently have going on intellectually or in your life for sure. So that is like critical. If you're not interested in doing that, like the space is moving too fast and you're just not, it's not going to be a fit. And then like, I don't know, on the startup side, you know, it's like be accountable, execution, and like culture fit, you know, keep learning, that kind of stuff, which are extremely, I don't want to like bypass them. They're super important. We're hiring a product person right now. We have a finalist. She comes from more traditional finance, and but yeah, the same kind of thing applies. It's just like it's such a crazy investment to like get up to speed, stay up to speed, and like to be a thought leader. It's like, you know, it's not for everybody.
Not for the faint of heart, for sure, especially at the pace that this industry goes.
Yeah.
On that note, like, what are your favorite interview questions, if you have one or a few that you like to ask?
Favorite interview questions.
Yeah.
I really love the regulatory one and the interest account. That's always a good one. Yeah, the team one's good.
Did you already cover the whole? Did you guys already cover the whole interest on USDC or interest on ETH and Bitcoin? Like your thoughts on whether that is legal or not legal at the moment?
Yeah, ask the question. Go for it, Day. I don't think we've specifically covered it.
Yeah, that's the question.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. So U.S. regulators are a funny bunch. Fantastic, a lot of smart folks. They come and they go, and they come and they go, and like it feels like it's been a lot of similar songs and dances for like a decade. So literally, like 3-4 administrations. So you know. Yeah, I mean, do I think there was an interesting research article that came out of DM yesterday, or that I saw, that the co-creator, you guys should check it out, around like what like constitutes like a valid stable coin or something like that. And yeah, if I think, you know, regulatory clarity is fantastic, then people can actually achieve it, you know. That'd be great across the board.
I mean, so basically, it's kind of like in the gray. We don't know whether, if it's like it's probably in the lighter gray, but maybe some regulators think it's in the darker gray, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah. And the Tether thing has been. This is like old news, and it's recycled news, and it's like, you know, the NYAG thing, it's like years now. I don't, you know, take a stance on it. I do take a stance on like one thing, which is that if we're gonna talk about stablecoins, let's talk about stablecoins. Like, to pick and choose USDC and Tether, like there's like 4 or 5 different flavors. It's got to be comprehensive. Like, algorithmic stablecoins are a thing, you know, crypto backed are a thing, right? So this isn't also, I guess, for the space, like it's not super new. So cherry picking, I tend to discount as like not like academic, to be honest with you. And I've seen some of that recently on, you know, like Twitter and LinkedIn. And I try to nicely call it out. But it's just like, you gotta be, you know, like Faye is a good example. Right? Like, they're trying something that's quite innovative. Is it successful? I don't know. But it's super unique, and it deserves a discussion. Even if people don't understand it, we should break it down so that people can understand it and have a debate about it. But to just bash people like the Tether team, whatever, like that's just not. Yeah. We're not the tabloids.
I agree. Adam, who comes from Stably, the stablecoin corporation, had a comment there.
Well, I was out of curiosity. Is the Datamynt platform fully non-custodial?
Now, right now, no.
Okay. Are you moving towards
Because
that
of
direction?
Yeah, absolutely. Once Polygon is fully up and running across our partners, then yes, it will be.
Okay.
It's an efficiency right now issue.
Okay. Yeah, I see probably that being the easiest path towards some degree of compliance is with regards to tokens, is you're removing the common enterprise, which you should be considering for BOB. And for any type of interest-bearing platform that kind of abstracts DeFi, you want to move towards non-custodial, because otherwise you fall under the Investment Act of 1940, which you mentioned, like people reacting to new legislation. Well, that one's like, 90 years old now, 80 years old, 81. So people are still reacting to that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very fair. Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to know our opinion of Stably, we're offering probably interest-bearing accounts only to accredited U.S. investors and non-U.S. persons. That's our regulatory standpoint right now. We're partnered with Prime Trust, and Prime Trust recently terminated their agreement with Celsius to offer the fiat backend for Washington State residents.
Oh wow! Okay, nice, very nice.
So you should be expecting a significant amount of regulatory action around interest-bearing tokens, both centralized and decentralized, in the next 3 months.
Hey, so I never really thought about it explicitly, but old technology, old financial system, legacy financial system, it was basically impossible for them to pay interest on a amount of money being held if they weren't custodying it. I mean, like, why would it's like, am I going to tell the bank I have $1 million? And so, I don't want to give it to them, but, I'd like for them to pay me interest on the $1 million. It's like, that's how ridiculous the old legacy financial system is, because with the technology and the software that we have now, with stable coins and Bitcoin and all the stuff, they can pay me interest, but never take any possession of it. And it's just so magical. I never even thought about it explicitly like that, but it's like, you can't even compare the two worlds together. And so, that's why this needs so much more really careful thought. It's like, I'm just like at a loss for words at the fact that it's not even possible to do that in the legacy world, but it is with software and the way that stable coins and Bitcoin and everything is created. So anyway, this is my
and it's depository account, depository insurance. It's not really, it's deposited. It's like a pass-through account.
Right. So coming into this conversation really late. So Alex, you guys are like a fully consumer-based business?
Yeah. So we, that's kind of, that is the focus. We do work with some companies around cross-border, like stablecoin payments, and like working capital, I would say, points on working capital. So we're set up for both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, at the end of the day, his name who just spoke, was it?
I got to do a lot more homework on, what you guys do to ask informed questions.
I think, what Adam just said, I think is important. I think this is where there's a big barrier, is the accredited. This is where large FIs are now offering Bitcoin to their wealthy folks. And this is this is just anathema to DeFi. I would say it's holy. Yeah. So we really have to break out of that. More, I would say.
a lot of people miss the fact that accredited is actually an exemption from registration. So if you eliminate accredited, you're eliminating the exemptions, which doesn't make any sense. Everyone assumes that registering is terrible and you should never register, but a lot of people are now registering. A lot of the SEC enforcement has required people to register tokens that you would think they'd ever be able to register otherwise. But ultimately, what you mentioned with regards to each country having its own rules, that's the real problem we're dealing with. Is that we now have a global financial system. The internet created that, but it worked for content, and then finance is trailing because identity and money was never built into the internet protocols yet, and now they are being built into the internet protocols, and that's simply incompatible with all these feudal jurisdictional states. So we are definitely at war with a legacy system that's going to get replaced, and that's just kind of what we're dealing with. So
especially in the U.S., right? Like you have like alphabet soup of federals. You have states like. So
a lot of the early cypherpunks, left the United States and created decentralized systems and were anonymous. And a lot of people are looking at crypto and going, "Oh, I can be in the U.S., create a Delaware C corporation, be a CEO, and I can do the same thing." And it's not going to work necessarily for everyone. Yeah. So there was a reason why the original networks were built the way they were, and so it's worth taking a hint at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you get into DAOs, that's a fascinating area. So definitely try not to get hit with the SEC with your BYOB offering right now, and definitely try to remove the common enterprise and go down the DAO rabbit hole deeply. Because a common U.S. Delaware corporation operating a token is going to get in trouble ultimately with the SEC. You're just lighting the fuse, and it's going to come like 4 or 5 years from now.
Yeah, right on. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, we're wrapping up here. Like really good conversations and questions, and obviously lots and lots of smart people thinking and working in this space. Alex, if people want to get in touch with you or follow you or get in touch, what's the best way?
Yeah, please check us out, versatildatamynt.com with a Y, Datamynt. And then also at Datamynt on Twitter. Please, give us a follow there. And otherwise, I'm at Alex at Datamynt.com. If you want to drop a line, would love to chat. We are going to actually open up appointments, like 10-minute appointments for folks that want to learn more. Pretty much anybody. Probably starting next week on the site. But otherwise, folks from here, I'm happy to set up time and always chat, especially partnerships or whatever the case is. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we have datamynt.com at Datamynt, DATAMYNT. Alex at datamynt.com for his email, and then check out his website, especially next week, because you'll be able to schedule away. For everyone, thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions or ideas come up, or as you explore Datamynt, definitely reach out to Alex, because I know he's very passionate, of course, and excited about this. We're excited about this as investors. We as a Startup Haven Fund. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll make sure we wrap this up and put it onto the YouTube podcast shortly. So for those that weren't able to be here for the entire time, you'll be able to catch it. All right. Well, happy Friday, happy August, and have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Arry. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. This podcast is non-technical, fun, informative way to learn about money, Bitcoin, blockchains, crypto, and digital assets. This podcast is not financial advice, and your reactions are your total and complete responsibility, y'all. Now, thanks again, and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
Stuck inside.